Hello YouTube. In this video I want to talk a little bit about Bluetooth technology and where we're at right now at the end of 2022 going into 2023. I brought out a few of my favorite Bluetooth receivers. In this video we're going to only talk about receivers. These have basically only one job to do, and that's take music via Bluetooth from your cell phone, tablet, laptop, process that audio, feed it through your home stereo. So these are not transmitters or portables or anything like that. These are what I call high-end Bluetooth receivers. Some of the manufacturers call them high resolution. And some of the audiophiles that really aren't familiar with a lot of Bluetooth poo-poo that and say, well, there's no such thing as high-end or high-resolution Bluetooth. And that is actually wrong nowadays. So let's talk a little bit about that. These are all Bluetooth 5.0 or 5.1 technology. I'm not saying that this is it, and the audio qualities basically are going to stop here. Who knows? They might go a little bit more, but basically, I look at it this way. These are like this is kind of like the old school CD players. Remember when CD players first came out? You had relatively inexpensive CD players that just didn't sound as good as, say, a $800 CD player or a $1,500 CD player. And there actually was a difference back in the day. Then as that technology progressed, that was not so much a thing anymore. It got to the point where you could get a $150 CD player and it would sound just as good as an $800 or $900 CD player. And then, of course, it kept going, and then it got to a certain point to whereas it was just basically, they all sounded good, but it was just basically down to features, what looked good to you, what fit your needs as far as connectivity and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of where we're at with Bluetooth technology right now. This is all subjective. I understand that. This is just in my opinion. Okay. So I've got out 6 of my favorite devices. All right. Now I have a closet full of devices. These are my favorites. All right. I'm going to start off with the RS Blue Me HD Bluetooth 5.0, 5.1 technology. Very nice unit. Has a fixed antenna. As we have RCA or analog output, and then of course optical output on this. So this is a really nice unit. Very good sound. Very good sound. Okay, then we have the newer option from RS, and this is the Blue Me Pro. On the back of this one, we have analog RCA output. We have coaxial output for those of you that utilize that. And then, of course, optical output. All of these output at the same time, which is kind of cool because you could do some A/B comparisons with an outboard DAC if you have one. Okay, fixed antenna. We have the little OLED screen on here, which shows you the sampling rate and a lot of times the name of the track. It's very cute. This also has a power button on it. You can use that as a power button. This one also has a power button on it as well. These will be dual function buttons. There'll be power buttons and pairing buttons. Okay, let's go over to the Blue Dentos. This is actually one of my favorites. I use this one a lot. This is the Blue Dento BLT HD. It has a fixed antenna. We have optical output on this one, as well as coaxial, analog left and right RCA. Nice little piece of gear. Then we have their newest model, which is the Blue Dento B2, which has a little OLED screen. And now we have an unpairing button on the front here. On the back, we have a removable antenna. So if you're having, which I like, I'm kind of a radio nerd, and so I like being able to have a removable antenna. Then I can, if I'm having problems with range, maybe due to interference in the house or maybe some brick walls or some electrical wiring and I'm just not getting good range, on something like this, you can add a higher gain antenna to this, which would be physically larger as well. I can leave a link to one of those down below. I use a Micus high gain antenna for those situations. And anyway, so we have removable antenna, we have optical out, coaxial out, left and right analog RCA outputs. Then we have the Audio Engine B1. This is branded as an audiophile rig. And this unit here has fixed antenna, and it has optical output and RCA analog output. At one time, this was the big dog. Okay. Then we have the IFI Audio Zen Blue version 2. I actually own the version 1 and the version 2 units. And audio-wise, I can't tell a difference. Just my old ears can't tell a difference between the two versions. But this unit is the device that I use exclusively on my main stereo system out in the front room. It already comes with a high gain antenna. I've gotten some serious range with this puppy. Okay, on the back, they've divided their output section. Now these other units here that we've already talked about, these units, they output all their sources at the same time. This one does not do that. This one here is basically split in half on the outputs. We have a switch that allows this device to output optical and coaxial. Okay, that's what we're going to get. You're going to get optical and coaxial. We go over here to the analog side, switch it over here to the analog side. We have unbalanced RCA outputs, which all these other ones are as well. And then we have balanced analog output for you guys that have receivers and preamplifiers with balanced inputs. Is there a sound difference? Yes and no. And there's so many variables with this stuff because we have variables with not only the devices, the built-in DACs, the chipsets inside and everything, but what you're playing back on. So you always have to keep that in mind as well. Okay? Put the antenna back on here. Just as a side note, I've taken my old Galaxy S7 and I've gotten 180 plus feet with this unit for receive wise. It's kind of a funky design. And I honestly, when I first saw this, I was like, oh man, I don't know. That thing's pretty weird looking. It's not going to match any of my gear at all. There's just no match with these compared to like these generic boxes here. But I really appreciate the styling, the detail that they've done with this styling, how they continue this in their product lineup. This isn't really an IFI commercial, but I know that some people just say, my gosh, that thing is that's weird looking. Yeah, it is, but this is a top-notch piece of gear. All right. So the Audio Engine for a little while had probably the best sound to it. All these other guys now have caught up to it. And it's not really the companies per se as far as the manufacturers of these. It's the companies producing the chipsets. Bluetooth technology, especially with the advent of 5.0 and 5.1, has just changed the game. Audio quality-wise and range-wise. So anyway, another thing too that I'd like to talk about is, a lot of these companies have just basically gotten rid of the on-off switch. So I'm old school. I like to see an on-off switch. And I wasn't really too hip on companies not giving me that feature. But I've got to admit that's changed quite a bit in a couple ways. First of all, I hook these up to my old vintage receivers. And they have those receivers, the old Marantzes, the Pioneers, the Kenwoods and stuff, and Sansuis, they have a switched outlet on the back. So I really like that. basically I can take any of these AC wall adapters that come with these units, plug it into the back of my Marantz on a switched outlet, and then whenever I turn my Marantz on and off, it'll turn these on and off. Okay, so that's a thing. So you vintage guys, keep that in mind. For the guys with the more modern receivers, preamplifiers, etc., that don't have switched outlets on the back, it's okay to not have an on-off switch. Because what these do is these basically go to sleep after a while. They kind of go to sleep. It's kind of a standby mode. They're ready for action the next time you walk in the room with whatever device was that you last used. So let's take the BLT HD, for instance, okay? It's a pretty interesting piece. This unit here, once you've paired like your tablet or your cell phone to it and you go, you play your music, you do your thing, you either walk out of the room or get out of range of this, or you shut your paired device down. After a certain point of time, and they all kind of vary a little bit, 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, it just kind of depends. This will actually kind of go to sleep, but it's on standby. It's standing there. It's ready to go to work the next time you walk back in your room with your paired device or turn your new paired device on. So I don't have a problem with not having on-off switches anymore. That is no longer an issue. So we're just going to have to kind of get used to that. This one has an on-off switch. This one has an on-off switch that kind of acts like an on-off switch. The B2, basically the switch on the front here is a pairing button, push button for pairing and turning off the display. You hold it for X amount of seconds and it will turn the display off. It looks like it's off, but it's not, okay? The Audio Engine B1 still does have the on-off switch. They may change this in later versions. And of course the IFI audio, it just goes to sleep and it's ready for action again. However, you can use this button to wake it up or to pair. So anyway, pretty interesting stuff. Okay, now let's talk price real quick, because really this is really where we're at this point, because they all basically sound the same. Now that's a blanket statement, but they all sound good. It would drive the average listener, batty if you sat here and A/B compared each one of these and made notes, maybe made measurements on test gear and stuff like that, which I have done, okay? And it'll just drive you batty because basically they all sound the same. Some of them do have their own little quirks. For instance, the B1 to me is just slightly flat on the high end, and a lot of audiophiles will like that. A lot of audiophiles will love this price point too at $189, 190 something bucks, whatever, because there are still people out there that think that if you pay more, you get more. Well, like the CD players nowadays, or at their height, that's kind of not an issue anymore. So anyway, all great sounding units. $199, about $189, $190 somewhere in there on that one. The Blue Dento BLT HD goes from about $90 to $119 depending on where you buy it, meaning on Amazon it's slightly higher priced. The B2 has a great sound. These all sound really nice. However, the B2 has a little bit less RCA output power. So this one's a little quieter. You still have good sound, good audio quality, but you're going to have to turn your the volume up on your receiver just a little bit more than you would with these other ones. Okay, the RS Pro, the Blue Me Pro, very nice sounding unit. This one comes in at, I believe, at about $169, and then the Blue Me HD, I see this going at right about that $100 mark, so give or take a little bit, kind of depending on Amazon's mood or the company's mood. Okay, I have worked with these folks on a personal level, and these guys stand behind their product. I've done work with Blue Dento. These guys are really on top of it as far as customer support. If you have issues or a defective unit or something like that, they take care of you. The IFI guys are good folks to work with. I haven't had a problem. And, maybe I caught these guys on a bad day. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say on that one. So anyway, there you go. I'll leave some links to these down below, factory links, Amazon links, because we're getting close to Christmas in 2022, and availability can be spotty. I will tell you that with the Blue Dento, guys, I have a promo code. It's promo code BB23, and you can get 10% off on these, as well as you can have these customized. And what I mean by that is, you know, when you go and you find a Bluetooth device, it'll say something like BLT HD or B2 or Audio Engine B1 or whatever. Well, if you'd like, and I do, this one is actually personalized for me. This one says Mike's B2. But what you can do is, you can, when you place your order, you can have them customize this. Maybe you want to have Bob's B2 or Bob's HD or Robert's BLT or something like that. Now, I'm sure there's a limit to characters and stuff, but it's kind of a cool thing if you're kind of a techie nerd. Kind of cool that you can actually do that. And I don't believe these guys are offering that right now. And I don't believe IFI is either. So I'm going to run these down. I'm gonna actually just show you the two that I use the most. Now, I have two here that I use the most, but that doesn't reflect on the other four. Okay, so the ones that I use the most in home are the IFI Zen. This is my main unit. This is actually my reference standard unit. This is the unit I use on my old school. Well, actually, all of my receivers are vintage old school receivers. This is the one I use on my main listening system out in the listening room. The BLT HD is the one that I use the most inside my little radio room here. All right. The B1, I'll use this in my vehicle once in a while. You know, I honestly just don't use this one quite as much as I do the other ones. Still, again, really super, super nice rig. Better than most of them out there on the market. Don't fall into that trap, guys. I am an Amazon influencer. I'm just going to tell you that right now. And I do not see these being returned like I do the other ones. Okay, so there are a lot of other ones out there, right? I see, depending on which way the wind's blowing, some of them have kind of a high return rate. I don't like that. I don't want to mislead somebody either. But yeah, these I see very, very low to almost no return rate. Maybe buyer's remorse on maybe this one or this one, but I'll bet you dollars to donuts they reorder these when they've tried something a little bit cheaper. All right. The RS units, I'll use these in the car as well. I have an old school Pioneer stereo, and I can plug these in to my auxiliary input. No, not the headphone jack input, the true RCA level preamp inputs. And these work very well. Anyway, like I say, they all relatively sound the same. They might have their little tiny bit of differences, like with this one. Like I say, just possibly for me, maybe just a hair flat on the high end. A lot of guys like that sound, so I'm just going to tell you that right now, that's about it, really. And so I guess it comes down to user functions and styling. These units here look like they just kind of phoned it in. They did not. All these boards are different. IFI just went, look, we're going to put something out there that's just funky and kicks butt, and they did. RS, this is kind of a generic housing. I've seen another brand use a housing like this. However, the board was not the same. I returned the other brand because it was terrible. All right. So the RS was good. Very good. This one here is funky looking and a very good unit. And like I say, I use all these kind of test off of. So I hope I didn't confuse you, but that's basically where we were at today. I get a lot of folks asking, what do I get? What should I get? What should I get? Well, here's 6 of what you should get units. All right, these are the units that that I recommend the most. Please leave questions or comments down below. Thank you for watching. If you have not yet subscribed to this channel, please consider doing so. Thanks for watching.